on, yeah. Never felt that, come on, yeah. When I never felt that, come on, yeah. You gotta get up.
Spanish-American War. Here's the warning. When we come to class, we're going to discuss what were the values displayed in imperialism. So 1, you need to find your value cards. 2, look through them and match them up. What values were used to support imperialism? To be discussed later. Sad trombone app. I suggest you all go out and get it. Quite possibly the dumbest war in a long history of dumb wars. Spain's colonial empire was collapsed almost to nothing. Just a few left: the Philippines, Puerto Rico, Cuba. $50 million of American money invested in Cuba's sugar industry. So we create the major causes that will lead to the revolt. So now we need to step in and solve the problem. Yellow journalism, Pulitzer and Hearst. Um, you do what you need to do to sell newspapers. Supposedly, Hearst said to Frederick Remington, we saw him in the last chapter painting pictures of the Old West, sent to Cuba to take pictures of the Cuban revolt. When Remington um typed back or telegraphed back, no war, can I come home? Hearst replied, you furnish the pictures, I'll furnish the war. Now, even though it was propaganda and blown out of proportion, the Spanish were doing horrible things in Cuba. Reconcentration camps. It's a guerrilla warfare. How do you fight guerrillas? You figure out who the guerrillas are. All of the individuals would be lined up. All of the Cubans were lined up, sent to the coast, put in concentration camps. Anybody that didn't go to the camps could then be labeled a guerrilla, and you could shoot at them. But of course, this is what you look like after you've been in the camp. So when they come to round you up, it's quite likely you will hide. Dupuy Dolomieu, Spanish ambassador to the United States. Just an aside here, this isn't in the book, so this is the only place you're going to need to find this, and will need to find this. He criticized the president, McKinley, as weak and a bidder for the admiration of the crowd, besides being a would-be politician who tries to leave a door open behind himself while keeping on good terms with the jingos of his party. Jingoist, over-the-top nationalist. Now, we found out this by, again, Pulitzer and Hearst offered rewards to people that could find them information. Somebody who worked at the U.S. Post Office stole one of his letters. Having the backbone of a chocolate eclair, it's like pudding. Insulting our president is grounds for war. Unless we do it, Maine was sent to Cuba to evacuate Americans if needed. It's blown up. We know now that it was an accident, but at that time, Randolph Hearst and Frederick Pulitzer and the other journalists in America will blame Spain. Spain is given an ultimatum, do this or else, and when they agreed to it, the U.S. had no choice but to declare war. It turns out that President McKinley was weak and a bidder for the admiration of the crowd. Didn't have much of an army, but the Navy was ready. Cuba's blockaded, and Commodore George Dewey was sent to attack the Spanish fleet in the Philippines, nowhere near, obviously, the other side of the world from Cuba.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, for our next attraction,
We'll invade the Philippines. Dewey captures Manila. You see the headline, smashes the Spanish fleet. The problem was no soldiers. Emilio Aguinaldo, Filipino, who had been fighting the Spanish for years. We bring him back from Hong Kong. Dewey arms him and his soldiers to fight Spain because we didn't have our own army.
I think we had a bad influence on her.
Well, in this case, him. The Philippines won't actually be granted independence until July 4th, 1946. McKinley prayed. God's answer was, there's nothing for us to do but to take them all and to educate the Filipinos, uplift, civilize, and Christianize them. Sounds a lot like that white man's burden, doesn't it? What he didn't realize, that since they'd been controlled by Spain for a couple hundred years, 98% of them were already Catholic. The Filipinos did not get the same message from God, leading to the Filipino uprising, which would be led by Emilio Aguinaldo, and the guns we gave him to fight the Spanish. Not everybody in America agreed with this action. Wide-ranging, anywhere from Mark Twain, Andrew Carnegie, William James, William Jennings Bryan. You should know at least 3 of those people. All right, the Teller Amendment before the war, promising that we will not get involved in Cuban affairs after the war, followed by the Platt Amendment after the war, guaranteed that we had to be involved in all of their affairs. Yes, that is Guantanamo Bay, where we have the prison. So we control you, but you're not really one of us. That will change in 1917